All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Dose with Dr. Uday. I have Dr. Alugo back with us. We are doing a series on mental health and, adolescents and our children. So the topic we're going to be talking about today is how to help your teen who is a high achiever not get overwhelmed. So now, before we get into this, I'm going to start with introductions. For those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Uday. I'm a board certified family medicine physician. I'm based in Martinsburg, West Virginia. I own a primary care practice, namely Apple Valley Family Medicine, an aesthetic practice. And my goal is to have my patients not only feeling good, but looking good. So I'm going to move on to Dr. Alugo. Dr. Alugo is a child and adolescent psychiatrist. She's the founder of St. John Cap and the Emotions Ambassador Program. She also hosts the Walking on Eggshells with Dr. Tolu podcast. Her goal is to help you balance supporting your child's mental health while caring for your own emotional health. So, Dr. Lugo, thank you so much for coming on back.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back again.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so this topic, so I'm going to repeat it again. So it's how to help your teen who is a high achiever not to get overwhelmed. So Dr. Tolu, how often do you see this? How much of a problem is this?
It's very common. It's very frequent that we see teens who are just they want to do well, or there's a pressure to do well, and they get easily overwhelmed. So it's quite common.
So, are there things like what ways can parents, try to figure out if their teen is overwhelmed or if there's an issue and what they need to do about it?
Okay, so maybe I'll start first with investigating why they're overwhelmed. So it's important to kind of figure out why. So number one, look at yourself. Is this coming from you? Is this a message that you are putting out there to say, oh, you need to do really well, which is not a bad thing, but then sometimes pressure can be a bit too much. And so look at ourselves, look at the home situation. Is that the family messaging? Is home stressful? So is this the only thing the child can control is how well they do at school, because everything else is so chaotic. Is the pressure from school, or is it pressure from this child? Is the child just a child who is very anxious and therefore easily overwhelmed? So investigate, and then communicate. Kind of like, well, maybe before communication is kind of observation. So how do you know your child is overwhelmed by school? Do you find that they're stressed out constantly? They're constantly on edge. They just can't seem to relax. They can't seem to find joy in anything. They begin to narrow down their social repertoire. They're not hanging out with friends. They're not doing stuff with family. It's all about, you know, either the sports they're involved in or the academic ability or academic demands. So it's about, oh, that next assignment or that next test or that tryout, because they really want to do well, and therefore everything else is put on the back burner. So do you find that they're having difficulty sleeping, the appetite is reduced, they're just not the happy teenager or happy child you always knew, because they just seem to be so burdened by this desire to achieve highly. So you've investigated if that's from you or from the environment, and then you're kind of observing these changes in them.
Gotcha. So what do you suggest parents do once they figure out that the child is overwhelmed, and stressed?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, like I said about observation. So observation is what I think. Well, I need to know exactly what's going on. So a conversation with the child as to, you seem to be really stressed out. What's going on? And getting your child to open up to you about where this stress is coming from, what their fears are, what their anxiety is. Are they, if they're an athlete, for example, do they have a fear of being cut from their team? Are they not being given enough playtime? Or have they failed a particular test? Is their friend group all like, we'll have to do really well and this is where this is coming from, or they just can't explain it? So really having a conversation with your child, and then to figure out what's going on, then looking at how you can intervene. So for example, you want to first encourage the pillars of health. So good sleep. Are they trying to get them to sleep properly? get them to start eating healthy, regular meals, get them to exercise appropriately. Then, if you need to begin to look at their schedule, are they over scheduled? We find some kids from school, they have 1,001 activities planned for their day. They're going from one tutoring to the other, to one sport to the other. So they're just so busy, they have no downtime. So you may need to begin to shave things down for them when it comes to extracurricular activities. At school, do they have too many courses? Some kids are doing IB or AP and they've taken on so much. They need to go and talk to the guidance counselor and kind of thin out their schedule such that it's more manageable. Maybe take some next semester, reduce them all together, stuff like that. Then really some non-negotiable. So you want them to spend time with family. You can say, you know what, no matter how busy you are, we have to have a meal together a day. If we're going to family gatherings, you have to come with us. If it's time, if you can take a weekend away, such that then they're away from their usual environment, they can really distress. So time away, time with family meals, encourage them to have time with their friends. Like, okay, you've been studying all week, you've been playing sports all week. Why don't you maybe go to the cinema? Why don't you have friends over? Because it's very easy for kids to just cut out all those things. So you want to encourage interactions with their friends as much as possible. Then encourage them to diversify. So if they're just so focused on one particular area of life, one particular sport, you may kind of say, why don't you maybe try a different sport, maybe just even as not competitively, just something like a rec sport, just for fun. Get them to take on other interests, because then they might find that they have a different group of friends, a different interest that they didn't even know they had, that will take the pressure off them in one particular area. And if you need to go into school and advocate for your child, talk to their teachers, guidance counselor, do so. If all of that is still not working and you begin to see impact on their mental health, then it's time to seek professional help. Where they're anxious, they're depressed, and things are really not working out well, then seek help.
Those are all just amazing tips. Thank you so much. So, how can people find you? And usually, when you have patients that come to you about this, are you finding that people are seeking help when they should? Because I have these ideas going on in my head, and I'm like, so, do you find that parents are seeking help when they should?
I think so. I think parents are kind of really in tune. They see that their kids are struggling, so they will seek help. They will, go into school. Some of the parents are not sure where to start, but usually going to the family physician is always a good place to start. Talking to school, and sometimes it's school that's picking it up. So schools are kind of reaching out to parents to say, your child is struggling. Would you mind seeking some help for them? But I think parents generally tend to know very early their difficulties, but then getting the appropriate help may be a challenge. But always, start with whatever you have. Just take the first step.
Awesome. Okay, so how can people find you when they're...
So I have a website, www.stjohncap.com. I have a blog on there. I have a YouTube channel, St. John Cap, with a double P, where I discuss all of this. I have a podcast, Working on Eggshells with Dr. Tolu, where we cover all these mental health topics from a parenting point of view as well. So those are some. I have an Instagram page, Facebook page, all called St. John Cap. So there's so many avenues where you can find me.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Alugo. This is great. So everybody, you've heard it. So connect with her if you need to. Definitely, if any of the information that was given, gives you any concern, definitely seek professional help. Talk to your doctor. If you're looking for a caring family medicine physician, we're accepting new patients at Apple Valley Family Medicine. Our website is www.applevalleyfamilymed.com, and our phone number is 304-350-1087. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy your week, you guys. Bye.